Tell Pat to drop 40 with a left hand, and then we'll talk.
And then we'll talk. So here's the deal. Larry Bird just fired back at Pat Beverley after he tried to tear down Bird's legacy and dropped one of the wildest takes the league has ever heard. Today I'm breaking down everything. Pat's comments, the fan explosion, and the reactions from players like Eddie Johnson and Jalen Rose, who couldn't let that slide. And if you think this is just another regular Pat Bev moment, wait until you hear how Bird shut down his whole argument with one cold line that flipped the conversation instantly.
And if KevinDurant was playing when Larry Bird was playing, he would average 50.
Nobody was averaging 50.
KevinDurant would have been.
KevinDurant's one of my favorite players of all time, but I know
It all kicked off in late August on Pat Bev's podcast, where he was doing what he does best, talking nonstop and stirring drama. They fell into one of those random NBA comparisons, KevinDurant versus Larry Bird, and then this happened. Within minutes, the internet blew up, and within hours, the clip was everywhere like a fire nobody could put out. Every comment section turned into a battle zone. One side throwing KD's advanced numbers and three-point percentages. The other side flexing Bird's MVPs and those classic 80s clips where he cooks entire teams. By the end of that weekend, it wasn't a take anymore. It was a full-on culture clash. Old school versus new school. Grit versus skill. Real trash talk versus online talking. And right in the center of this mess was Pat Beverley.
We got Jared Allen.
Why? Just because he likes anime?
I mean, okay.
Just because he has sweet sideburns?
You asked, you didn't make...
No, I didn't ask.
Or when he called Chris Paul a cone. Yeah, that's classic Bev.
He can't guard. He literally can't guard.
Chris Paul can't guard anybody?
No, he can't. Everyone knows that. What we call him? Cone. You know what you do with cones? You make a move. What does the cone do?
Stay still.
Exactly. He's a cone.
A role player with a mic who somehow dragged the whole basketball world into a debate about one of the greatest players ever. But before we dive deeper into this Bird versus KD storm, you gotta understand why the whole thing felt so wild coming from Pat Beverley in the first place. Pat Bev isn't an NBA legend. He's a former player, known way more for his talking than his scoring. He was a guard from Chicago, a second-round pick in 2009, who had to grind his way into the league the long, hard route. He hooped in Ukraine, then Greece, then Russia, before finally cracking the NBA with the Houston Rockets in 2013.
Didn't Bird shoot left-handed for an entire game against Portland?
Scoring 47 points. You're especially using your left hand.
Oh.
From day one, everybody knew his vibe. He wasn't outscoring stars, he was irritating them on purpose. That's literally how he built his whole brand. He got on Russell Westbrook's nerves so badly that Pat Bev defense became its own personality. He bounced around the league from Houston to the Clippers, then the Timberwolves, the Lakers, the Bulls, and the Sixers. And at every stop, it was the same deal. A role player who made elite players lose their cool just by being in the building. But here's the twist.
He's at the free throw line. And gamesmanship and talking a little bit. Just try to ice the shooter a little bit. You know, I did that once, and then I kind of did it again, right? So he gets the ball from the official dribblers once. He's like, Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? Reggie, are you freaking kidding me? I'm the best shooter this game has ever seen. You think you're gonna be able to ice me as he's talking? Next one, wah. I'm like, damn. I walk to the other side, and Kevin McHale goes, yeah, that was kind of stupid of you to do something like that, right?
That same edge that turned him into a defensive pest somehow transformed into his entire media identity in 2022. He joined Barstool Sports and launched the Pat Bev podcast with Roan, and from that moment, it was clear he found a new hustle. Most players mellow out once they get behind a mic, but Bev turned the volume up, leaning into that same irritating energy that annoyed players for years. That's exactly why his mic hits harder now than his box scores ever did.
He just shook his head at me. He said, man, it's going to be a fucked up night for you.
So what did he put up?
I think he gave me, I think he gave me 40, 46. 3.
And none of this should shock anyone. If you've watched Pat Bev long enough, you know controversy sticks to him like a shadow. Remember when he made that list ranking the whitest black players in the league? Yeah, that one. Loud, messy, and wrong. But that's his whole thing. In a world where ex-players use podcasts to build media empires, Pat Bev carved out his own role, the disruptor. While guys like J.J. Redick and Draymond Green try to educate fans, Bev built a lane off pure chaos and takes design to make people mad. So when he said KD clears Bird, he knew exactly what kind of storm he was starting.
Who coming in second? Let's take the picture.
Where'd you place?
He beat me. He beat me that day. He beat me.
People didn't just hear a bad basketball take. They heard a professional instigator doing what he always does, stirring up drama that guarantees clicks, comments, and reaction videos. But this time, he messed up picking the wrong legend. Because Larry Bird wasn't just another name in NBA history. He was the dude other legends were scared of. When people talk about Larry Bird, they don't just throw out numbers. They talk about those wild moments that make you stop and think, no way that actually happened. Like the 1984 finals, when he straight up dragged the Celtics to a championship. Boston had just been embarrassed in Game 3, and Bird called his own teammates soft on live TV without blinking.
That boy, he can play, man. He turned it out.
Most players would lose the locker room instantly, but not him. Bird came back averaging 28 and 14, outworked everybody in sight, and took home Finals MVP like it was normal for him. And then there's the 1991 playoffs versus Indiana. Bird took a brutal fall, cracked his cheekbone, got concussed, and vanished into the tunnel. Everybody thought his night was over. Then out of nowhere, he walked back onto the court like it was some legendary wrestling entrance and the whole garden exploded. And of course, he led Boston to the win. But none of this hits fully unless you remember where he came from. French Lick, Indiana, a tiny town with barely 2,000 people. No fancy AAU circuit, no hype machine pushing him. This was a kid who worked until he outshined everyone at Indiana State, turning a small school into a national headline and dragging them all the way to the 1979 title game. And that's where the Bird vs. Magic rivalry truly started. Magic won that night, but Bird walked away with something that stayed forever: respect.
There's a reason he talks for a living, because his game never did the talking.
When Larry Bird got drafted by Boston, the Celtics were a straight-up disaster. 29 wins, no direction, no identity. Then Bird walked in and everything flipped overnight. They jumped to 61 wins in his rookie season. And anyone who really knows basketball understands turnarounds like that don't just happen by accident. From there, the 80s became his playground. 3 championships in 81, 84, and 86, 3 straight MVPs, and 12 All-Star selections. But the trophies weren't even the craziest part. It was how he played the game. Bird approached basketball like a chess master, not an athlete trying to jump over people. He read the floor, predicted every move, and punished mistakes before defenders even knew what went wrong. He passed like a point guard, shot like a machine, and moved like someone who already knew the ending before the game even started. Teammates used to say he'd literally tell them where to stand, hit them with the perfect pass, and if they messed it up, he'd roast them on the spot in front of everyone. By the time he retired in 1992, he'd checked every box: titles, MVPs, and a legacy that still pushes players today. And remember that famous left-hand comment. Didn't Bird literally play a whole game left-handed against Portland? Back in 1986, he faced the Blazers and decided he was running the whole night with his offhand, not because he was hurt, but because he said he was saving his right hand for the Lakers. Who even thinks like that? He dropped 47 points, 14 rebounds, and 11 assists, a whole triple-double, while using his offhand for most of the game. Imagine a player today trying that in a real NBA matchup, not practice, not preseason, an actual live game. The internet would explode instantly, but Bird did it like it was just another night at work, then turned around and beat the Lakers days later. That's exactly why Pat's take hits people so hard. He came at a legend who did things barely anyone else would even attempt. When you say something like KevinDurant clears Larry Bird, you're basically acting like Bird wasn't out here dropping 47 points with his offhand like it was nothing. Now look at Durant. Incredible scorer, no doubt. By 21, he was already leading the league in points, and by 28, he had 2 Finals MVPs, plus a rep as the most unguardable player of his era. Keyword, his era, because Bird was breaking basketball logic before social media, advanced trainers, or modern analytics even existed. That's why fans brought up the left-hand game the second Pat Bev opened his mouth. It wasn't nostalgia, it was proof. Bird didn't rely on the era to shine. The era needed him to level up. So when Pat Bev says KD would have dominated the 1980s, the real question becomes, could KD do what Bird did in that world? Because here's the truth. KD's greatness has always lived inside controlled environments. Oklahoma City was his lab. Golden State was his cheat code. Brooklyn was the experiment gone wrong. And Phoenix, that felt like a half-finished beta version. Everywhere he's gone, he's walked into systems built for him, not teams he had to build himself. When Bird walked into Boston in 1979, the whole franchise was falling apart, and he rebuilt it from the ground up. KD's OKC squad was young, loaded, and stacked with future MVP talent. Bird didn't join greatness, he created it. Durant joined it, twice. KD thrives in today's space and pace game where shooters stretch the floor and defenders can't put hands on him. No hand checking, no brutal fouls, no guys like Bill Laimbeer trying to knock your head off. He mastered the modern style, but the modern style is basically a safe sandbox compared to the battlefield Bird played in. Bird's era tested your will before your jumper. KD's era tests your Wi-Fi before your shot clock. Mentally, these two couldn't be more different. Bird didn't just want to beat you, he wanted to break you in front of everyone. He'd humiliate you, talk trash, call out your play mid-possession, and dare you to stop him while he watched you crumble. So let's be clear, Durant is one of the best of this era, but Bird's presence shaped the league in ways the modern game can't copy. Comparing KD to Bird is like comparing an iPhone to the guy who invented electricity. One is impressive, but the other created the foundation everyone else builds on. And that's the part Pat Bev never understood. Bird wasn't just gifted physically, he was dangerous mentally. Every story about him sounds exaggerated until you notice they all come from the dudes who actually played against him. And they all sound the same. He knew your move before you knew your move. Take Reggie Miller. He once told the story of his rookie year when he tried talking trash to Bird. Bird looked at him like he violated some sacred rule, then told Reggie he was just a rookie and hadn't earned the right to talk to him yet. Reggie said Bird then proceeded to score effortlessly the rest of the quarter, and only afterward told him to come back when he actually earned that right. That's real psychological dominance. Then there's Shawn Kemp, the high-flying young star who thought he could punk anybody. Bird took that personally. During one matchup, Bird baited him on fakes, boxed him out using pure IQ, and dropped buckets without even changing expression. Where'd you place? And he beat me. He beat me that day. He beat me up. You kept this exactly as required. And the stories just keep coming because they reveal who Bird was every night. One of the most famous ones, the three-point contest story, hits different every time. Bird walked into the locker room before the event, looked at all the other shooters and said, "Who's finishing second today?" He wasn't joking. He was already plotting before the first ball even went up. Then he walked out, hit every shot he needed, and held his finger in the air before the last ball even dropped because he knew it was over. Tell me what can top that? Seriously, that was aura in its purest form. What made Bird terrifying wasn't just the talent, it was the way he predicted his success in real time and then delivered it like he already watched the game before it happened. Even Magic Johnson, who battled him for nearly a decade, said Bird's deadliest weapon wasn't the jumper, it was his mind. Magic would joke that Bird could trash talk you and coach your defensive rotation at the same time. And Bird didn't just talk to opponents. He talked to their coaches, their bench, the fans, even the broadcasters mid-game. That's exactly where Pat Bev's comparison falls apart. Bev talks for attention, Bird talked for control. One's podcasting while the other was programming the whole situation. Even today's players admit Bird's psychological edge was something different. Paul George once talked about how Bird, retired, in slacks, not even warmed up, walked into a gym and calmly splashed a three like it was nothing. That's the kind of quiet flex that sticks with pros. Bird's actual game was ahead of its time. His jumper had a high release nobody could block, and his footwork was so clean and balanced it looked simple until you tried stopping it. And the passing, that's what separated him. He saw angles nobody else noticed, and while most players reacted to defenses, Bird was already 2 steps ahead, anticipating them. He had this almost supernatural timing. He knew the exact moment to cut, when to slip a screen, when to fire a pass, and the perfect second to pull up for a shot. He'd lure defenders into thinking they figured him out, then embarrass them on the very next possession with something completely new. And the intimidation was real. Opponents admitted Bird's trash talk wasn't for ego. It was psychological warfare. He'd call his shot mid-game, drain it, and then remind you about it until you broke. Every generation has its legends, but Bird's aura never faded. It still hangs over the league today. You can ask players from every era. Jordan, LeBron, Paul Pierce, they all talk about Larry Bird with that same mix of fear and respect. And the wildest part, he did all of this with a body that looked more like a math teacher than a modern pro athlete. That's how strong his mind was. But if you think it was only mental, you're missing half of the picture. The NBA in the 1980s was a straight-up battlefield. Every night was physical, unforgiving, and built to punish anyone who wasn't tough enough to survive. Hand-checking was legal, which meant defenders could literally lean on you, bump you, shove you, and slow your drive down with their hands, and refs wouldn't say a word. And it wasn't just that. Illegal defense rules were way stricter, so teams had to rely on real one-on-one matchups instead of hiding behind fancy zone schemes. Driving into traffic wasn't just risky. It could leave you bruised or hanging on the floor wondering what hit you. The game demanded toughness, and Bird thrived in that chaos. He didn't have a super athlete body. He had anticipation, IQ, and the skill to navigate every messy situation thrown at him. Fast forward to today. KD, Steph, LeBron, they play in a league that's quicker, sure, but built for efficiency and player safety by design. The defensive 3-second rule, no hand checking, and modern spacing give them open lanes that never existed in Bird's era. The rise of the three-point revolution changed the whole sport. Now you don't always need to fight through the paint. Sometimes a deep three from way beyond the arc wins the game. Modern players are insanely skilled, no doubt, but the challenges they deal with are completely different from the wars guys like Bird had to survive. Fan culture back then was different, way different. The NBA wasn't blasted across TikTok or Instagram every 5 seconds. Celtics fans actually knew Bird's whole story, and Pistons fans lived and died with Detroit's toughness. The connection felt raw, regional, and real. You didn't just watch your team, you lived it. Compare that to today. The AAU brotherhood vibe, social media hype, and 24/7 coverage where everybody's highlights get recycled in seconds. Players bounce from team to team, franchises push brand identity first, and rivalries that once defined real beefs get replaced by flashy edits and hashtags. The modern game is faster, sure, but something's missing. The grit, the loyalty, the fights that never made the highlight reel but shaped whole eras. And now let's talk preparation, because this shows how wild Bird's dominance really was. In the 80s, players had basic gyms, basic weights, and nutrition. That was basically whatever the team cafeteria threw together. Recovery, ice baths, tape, maybe a massage if someone was available. Bird dominating night after night in that setup speaks volumes about his work ethic and basketball IQ. Meanwhile, today's stars have personal trainers, advanced nutrition, sleep tracking, cryotherapy, analytics teams, and recovery tech that looks like NASA built it. It's a whole science lab around every player. So yeah, KD is insanely talented, but he's not dealing with 1980s hand-checking, bruising defenders, and rule books built to slow you down physically. Bird didn't have modern spacing, screen packages, or cutting-edge tech to lean on. And if you think Bird was just gonna let Pat Bev's disrespect slide, think again. Yeah, he wasn't bluffing. That wasn't ego. That was straight dominance, classic Bird energy. And let's be real, Beverley's perspective carries a little bitterness. He wasn't a superstar. He was a role player, a pest, a guy whose whole job was making life miserable for stars. He never carried a team, never defined an era, never built a legacy filled with MVPs or rings. And now he's on a mic saying strange stuff like this just to stir up noise, claiming KD is better than Bird, picking fights with legends, creating controversy to stay relevant. That's the modern NBA podcaster trap. Bev knows exactly what he's doing because the algorithm rewards hot takes. Every time he tosses out something wild, say KD over Bird, LeBron versus MJ, whatever, it blows up online. But here's the thing, clicks don't equal truth. Beverley gets attention because he shakes the pot, not because he has the credentials to be in a conversation like this. You see the same pattern with guys like Austin Rivers and Kendrick Perkins, role players using platforms to amplify opinions way beyond what their actual careers justify. Bev fits that mold perfectly. His takes are basically a replacement for what he couldn't accomplish on the court. Meanwhile, Bird never needed amplification. His psychological game commanded fear, respect, and silence without him even trying. Beverley only commands attention because he has a mic and controversy to hide behind. And the irony is wild. Beverley calling out Bird, one of the most feared competitors the league has ever seen, while never carrying a team to the finals, never redefining his era, never being the guy opponents built entire scouting reports around before the first whistle. So anytime you hear Beverley or another role player turned podcaster spit out a hot take, remember Bird's energy. Talking for a living only matters when your game already did more talking than your mouth ever could. And as expected, the old school guys weren't letting it slide. Eddie Johnson jumped in and said it straight. Eddie Johnson fired back with, "You have zero clue how good LarryBird was." And Jalen Rose jumped in too during an ESPN interview. He said KD is insanely talented, but he still sided with Bird without hesitation. His exact words were, "I'm going with Larry Legend at this point in their careers." And he reminded everyone of something fans never forget. KD joining that 73-9 Warriors squad stamped his legacy in a way he can't shake. Here's the real takeaway. Larry Bird wasn't just a hooper. He was a mind, a leader, a strategist who earned respect possession by possession. Every night, he proved why legends feared him. Pat Bev can toss out hot takes for clicks, and KD can fill the modern stat sheet, but Bird's influence, that's forever. The contrast is crystal clear. Bird's era demanded toughness and proof every single night, which is why debates like KD clears Bird might be fun online, but sound wild once you actually understand basketball. Bird built something that still echoes today. That aura doesn't fade. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, hit subscribe for more NBA deep dives, and drop your thoughts below. Who do you honestly think could go toe-to-toe with Bird in his prime? Well, besides MJ.